Here again with Cato, the owner of this fine establishment. As this is a recovery week, we're just going to ask Cato a bit about the sort of what we're doing and if he has any suggestions about further things to incorporate into our routines. Also supplementation. What we're generally doing is ice baths, sauna, deep tissue release, and then stretching twice a week, like a good stretch session, and most days just general stretching. So that's the main crux of our recovery. Is there anything else that you think we should be considering?
Well, I think the fact that you guys are programming in a recovery week, you're already ahead of the game. And if you're giving yourselves time to do some cross training, i.e., some deep stretching, a pool session, ice baths, that sort of stuff, really important to involve that in your off season or in your deload week. I think creating a chemical environment which is optimal for recovery is really important, and that's just a case of dialing in on your sport-specific supplementation, making sure that you're getting a diet that's free of any really inflammatory foods. Obviously, staying well clear of highly processed foods and alcohol. If you really want to soup it up with some exotic stuff, you can start to get into your anti-inflammatories like your curcumins as well as your pepper seed extracts and various other ones. Managing cortisol is a really important one, so you're doing the right things there with the stretching, but also your post-workout shake. You can throw in a little glycine. You can bring down your levels of cortisol before bed using things like phosphatidylserine and various different other supplements. Sleep is the most regenerative thing that you can do.
Yeah.
So it may even be just one of those things where you're just very conscious of your sleep routine, your sleep hygiene as we call it, making sure that you're not having any bright lights before bed. That sort of stuff is really important.
Would you say 8 hours? That's what I try
8
to
hours
get.
is 7.5 to 8.5 is essential. They also talk about having a nap around the 2-3 o'clock is also really, really good for cognitive function.
Okay.
So I think making sure that it's really deep restorative sleep, and ways that you can ensure that happens: 3-hour fast before bed, no bright lights before bed, give yourself that period of darkness. Make sure that the foods you're eating in the evening are yin in nature, and then if you are taking any supplements to help yourself sleep, making sure that they are calming you down in the right way. Any sleep problems are diseases of arousal. So if you're really hyper aroused or hyper vigilant in the evening, it's going to negatively affect your sleep. Things that you can do like stretching and relaxation techniques are really helpful for that. And for any serious athlete, it's essential that you're sleeping well. And the soft tissue work that we were talking about earlier is really important. Just getting in and dealing with any of those little niggles, making sure that they're dealt with before they turn into an injury is really important as well.
In terms of sleeping, two parts, I guess, to the question. One, if you miss, like say you only slept 4 hours last night, can you make it up by sleeping 12 the next night, or breaking it up like that? And second part, does it matter what time you sleep? So if you're sleeping 3 a.m. to 11 a.m., obviously it's going to be sunny at the end of that, as opposed to say like 11 p.m. to maybe 7 a.m.
To answer the first part, the sleep needs to be unbroken, and you can't make up sleep because your body goes through a period or a cycle during sleep which has huge amount of different functions, everything from patterning, neural patterning, right through to the actual cellular process of repair. And so making sure that you're getting 8 hours or 7.5 to 8.5 hours of unbroken sleep is really important. Hours before midnight are the most regenerative and restorative for your body. And so it's important to remember that our body goes through a series of cycles of sleep throughout the night, and it is in accordance with the planet which we are intimately a part of. And so getting those hours of sleep during the period of darkness is also most restorative for the human animal, so to speak.
I think sleep is definitely an area I can improve on. I gotta say, I only had 4 hours sleep today. Up editing, guys. I'm working hard, but yeah, I'll definitely try to prioritize that over other things. And just in general, so I'm really happy with my state right now. I don't have any injuries. Everything's feeling really good. I'm sure that my forearms probably are a little bit tight, but there's no pain or anything yet. What are your thoughts on for the healthy athlete, I guess gymnast or bodyweight practitioner? Are there any sort of specific prehab things you think I should really be thinking about and working on?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think forearm injuries is probably the most common for the bodyweight athlete, because it's all open chain. It's all done on the hands or the feet. And so making sure that your prehab, just in terms of preparation before exercise, but also exercises that you can do to help balance and strengthen the forearms so that they're not really one-sided in strength capabilities.
So that would be more, because I think I might be doing that, because I do so much gripping of the rings, but I don't often do this kind of motion.
So in my opinion, it's essential in a good forearm program for a gymnast or a bodyweight practitioner would be supination and wrist extension. Those are the two that I would train regularly, because actually you'll find your levels of grip, flexion, and pronation will improve. Because you're balancing out the strength ratios.
So is that this supination? Is that where like a dumbbell? Is that what you're talking about? Or is
well, it doesn't matter what apparatus you're using, but supination would be turning the palm in this fashion, and flexion would be anything that requires you to go like this. So you could be like this and supinating like that. But oftentimes supination is quite weak in comparison to the pronation in a bodyweight.
So basically chin-ups as opposed to pull-ups in terms of if you're doing that motion?
Yes, and just that actual rotation as well is really important, because you'll be quite weak that way, but you'd be very strong that way.
Does that mean specific exercises to get the burn?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different exercises. You can even just use something where you're supinating this way. You can use a stick.
It's a big stick you got there.
It's a big stick where you're supinating like that. And I have a wrist machine at the front, which supinates as a supinator.
That's great, because these are all things you could pick up anywhere if you have weights lying around, or a stick, or you could even probably...
Just a rubber mallet is one of the best tools, just supinating like that.
Sweet, well, there you go. I think I definitely need to work on perhaps that, just to prehab. So Cato, we just recently had our blood tested.
Terrific.
And the results were interesting. One thing I found cool was both Tyson and myself were on the higher end of the normal range for testosterone.
Fantastic.
Who do you think had a higher level?
I'm not sure I should answer that question, but I think it's important to remember that what is common is not normal, and so in the blood testing, a lot of what we get these days, the normal range is normal for Homer Simpson. And so the fact that you guys are in the upper fourth quartile doesn't surprise me at all. In fact, if you even surpass the upper fourth quartile, would be good for athletes. It would be important for athletes.
So you're saying we could still improve on our testosterone levels?
Absolutely. And remember, there's many different facets to testosterone. There's serum testosterone, which is important. More important is your free testosterone. But then there's, where does that testosterone end up? Is your sexual hormone binding globulin too high? There are loads of different areas. Is the cortisol high in the blood? There's always more to look at than just A to B. There's all these different areas where testosterone can leach. DH2 and so forth.
I've got the test with me. Can I run and grab them real quick?
What was interesting was we had that. Here's what the doctor found interesting. We had that high testosterone level, but same with Lachlan. I can't remember what the name was, but the thing that tells you to produce the testosterone, that molecule was low, which said to him that it was coming from an outside, or suggests it was coming from an outside source. So that's what he found peculiar, and we also did, because we were only having, well, I don't even think I'd started having protein yet. I was supplementing with it, and Lachlan was having it intermittently, and that was the only outside thing that we were having. But I also thought it was interesting, since working in a supplement store and reading up on it, some companies can add a little bit that you're not aware of to get away with it. So first batch of customers get those good results, and they're like, yeah, this stuff works great. They sell a lot.
The very first protein marketed was a spiked protein, spiked with dianabol. So there were all these people who were drinking whey protein and thinking, wow, I'm getting these great results, and in fact it was spiked with a fairly serious...
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting, but even saying that, we weren't supplementing with protein that often.
No.
So it was just, I just thought that was interesting what the doctor said.
You've got to look more, when it comes to testosterone, testosterone is a really complex molecule, and how it interacts with the body is really complex as well. You've got to remember, testosterone is the first thing to go. Your libido is the first thing to go in any situation. If you're stressed, not eating well, ill in any way, your libido is the first thing to go, closely followed by a series of other things. So if your testosterone is good and the production is good, or the free testosterone molecule is high, it means to say that you're of good health. And you can use that as a health marker in the male population and the female population.
So we had Dr. Vanden Heuvel analyse the results. I think it was also interesting to have Cato have a look at them, as he's much more accustomed to dealing with elite athletes. So I think from a doctor's perspective, we might be abnormal because we're not the Homer Simpson average sort of person, whereas you'd be much more familiar with these kind of figures, I would imagine.
So you could see even your C-reactive protein. It's really important to get C-reactive protein because it's one of the first markers of inflammation. Remember we discussed earlier about inflammation. Here we can see a 0.4, which for the for the average population wouldn't be that, would actually be very good. Anything under 1 is typically very good, but I'd like to see your inflammation markers a bit lower actually.
Oh, okay. So what kind of figure are we looking for then?
Wow, as low as possible, 0.1.
0.1. I got some work to do, so that's inflammation, is it?
Inflammation. It's a very broad marker for inflammation.
And so you combat that with supplementation, basically?
Supplementation and exactly recovery. There's some of the recovery methods we discussed earlier.
Okay, so that's interesting. So, for example, working deep tissue more frequently will actually have an effect on the body, a substance inside the body, essentially.
Yeah, your chemistry is affected by everything. The air we breathe, just being surrounded, you don't even know the environment that you're in may have something in the air. There's all sorts of chemical reactions happening all the time that we're not really familiar with, that has a huge effect on the body.
Cool. I find that really interesting, that if you do your deep tissue properly, you'll actually reduce.
Well, that's not as clear as A equals B.
Right, but it'll
contribute.
Does everything that you've discussed with us, Cato, in terms of recovery, does that all influence helping to lower cortisol? Because I've heard that from many different sources, how important that is to keep it low.
Yeah, okay. Well,
or are there specific methods that you...
Cortisol's been villainized in recent time because people look for a simple answer. The answer's really complex, even way beyond the scope of a 5-minute chat. But cortisol has to be a natural rhythm, and cortisol has to be appropriate. Actually, people whose adrenal glands are healthy and whose cortisol production is very good are more likely to survive a heart attack. And more likely to be able to get themselves amped up for various different things. Your morning cortisol should actually be quite high. Are you having an appropriate cortisol response? If you're having a flatline cortisol response, i.e. you're very, very stressed and you've been exposed to a lot of cortisol for a long time, you become cortisol resistant and you have a terrible adrenal function. It's very, very poor. So it's not to say that cortisol should be low, because low cortisol, you don't feel great. When your cortisol is low, you're kind of drowsy, you find it hard to get rolling. It's more important that we have a natural cortisol rhythm. So doing things like exercising, cortisol should be high. And in fact, in order for us to switch on the MTLR pathways and various other pathways in the body to aid in repair and aid in performance, we really need to spike that cortisol and get it high. So doing a 5-point salivary or a 4-point salivary test on the cortisol is one of the better ways I've found to get a good snapshot on what's going on with someone's cortisol. And if they've got a beautiful high morning cortisol, 20 or above, 22 point something is really nice. And then it teeters off throughout the day, drops down through 18, and then into the evenings very low. You've got a great cortisol rhythm. And that's something you'll see in somebody who rises early, great, fresh out of bed, trains in the morning, gets into their recovery later in the day, during the heat of the day. So the midday sort of time is when we would sit under a tree and sort of relax in the heat. and then into the evening, sitting around the campfire and telling war stories, that's when your body really, the cortisol should be very low, and when cortisol is really low, your body's able to start producing melatonin and you drift off to sleep and have a really restful sleep.
The dream lifestyle right there, guys. Yeah. Got the campfire, he's got the tree. That's what I got out of it.
So this is, so what they've done here is your serum testosterone, which is good, but there's no free testosterone that I can see. They give you a free androgen index, slightly different thing, and they've given you a sexual hormone binding globulin, which is in the high range. So it's not as...
Is that a good thing?
No. It's not as rosy as first thought. There's a lot we can do to fix that.
Okay.
And your luteinizing hormone is very low. So the signal to the testes, the hypothalamus testicular axis, this is one of the guys, NFHS, which stimulates the labigs in the testes. So this is, I mean, off camera, this is something that we can chat about.
Yeah, I don't mind. I'm not holding anything back. So
I should say that I'm not a doctor, and I should also point out that I'm certainly not medical trained to give any health advice based on this sort of stuff.
Yeah. Oh well, it's okay. Like we're happy to share the negatives and the positives of our training and failures, because we think it gives like a richer experience for the viewer anyway. So So feel free to say.
I should really go on record that I'm not giving medical advice in any way.
Of course.
Yeah. But the fact that that your serum testosterone is high is truthful.
Yeah. Very pleased with that one.
Yeah.
So thank you very much again, Cato.
It's my pleasure.
Absolute pleasure training here. We're always learning new things when we come here. Always finding new equipment as well. It's right in front of us, but sometimes we don't see it until we actually use it. So what will we find next time?
Well, we're going to hit the forearm machine next time.
Oh, that sounds really good. Yeah, nice. So thank you very much, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Great.
Cheers.
Great having you guys in.